Everybody ready? Great. All right. So welcome everybody to the Town Board of the Town of Ossinin's regular meeting for July 24th, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, God. So tonight, are we going to start with a roll call, or do you want to do that? We're going to start with a work session, and we're going to begin with, we have one item on our work session, and it has to do with some folks in the audience. Last week, I received a call from Professor John Cronin, who is the Senior Fellow for Environmental Affairs at Pace University's Dyson College Institute for Sustainability and the Environment, and the coordinator of the Environmental Systems CoLab. As well, he is the former Hudson River keeper, which is exciting. He is involved in a very interesting project and is here with some of his students and a colleague to discuss it with the town board and to ask the town to approve the siting of an interesting piece of equipment on town property. Professor Cronin, would you please come up with your students to the microphone and let us know what's going on?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us here. We really appreciate it, town board and Supervisor Littman. This is my colleague Rick Klein from the Seidenberg School of Computer Science and Information Systems. This is Will Bender, who is one of our student interns for the summer, Andrew Welsh, who is one of our student interns for the summer, and Kyle Hansen, who is one of our student interns. I'll explain briefly what it is that we're up to, and my students are going to help me out by explaining what the project's about and what we need. First of all, what we're going to be launching in September is called the Environmental Systems. The Environmental Systems CoLab. It's a collaboration of our Arts and Science School, our Computer School, and our Business School. And it's an environmental research project and an environmental education and training program. And what it involves, and my students will explain, is it involves deploying real-time monitoring equipment that delivers water quality data in real time. This is a cutting edge of where environmental research and protection are going. If any, have you all heard the expression, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's probably the most popular 10 words in American advertising. The reason people always remember it is not because it tells you you have children or what time it is. It's because it reminds you that if you don't know where your children are in real time, you can't protect them. So this is the concept. The concept is if we want to protect ourselves from pollution, if we want to protect fish and so on, we want to know environmental conditions literally in real time. And so we set up this program. We were the beneficiary of about $300,000 worth of equipment. We set up a facility here in Ossining, actually in the village, within the village perimeters, but on 47 Hudson Street along the river. We have about 1,500 square feet of there, and our students and we use that as a workshop and a workstation where we work on the equipment, and we have training sessions there. And come September, we will be launching this project full scale. Why we're here before you is because we want to deploy one of these monitoring stations in Kemmy's Cove. And the town owns is the owner of the land underwater at Kemmy's Cove. And if we're going to anchor it, we need the town's permission to do so. This would be our first deployment outside of our own experimental deployment on the Pace University campus in our campus pond. I'm going to ask Will Bender to come up and briefly explain to you the technology. Then Kyle Hansen's going to explain to you how the information actually works. And then I'm going to ask Andrew to explain to you what the permissions are all about, because the town's permission is not the only permission we're going to need. So why don't you come on up?
Hi, I'm Will Bender. I'm a computer science major at Pace. So the pods are these 4x6 foot floating platforms that are solar powered, and they can collect many data points of water quality like pH, temperature, dissolved oxygen, turbidity, things that we can use to assess, how clean the water is. And we've programmed the pod to collect the data every 15 minutes and send it wirelessly, to transmit it wirelessly over to central servers at Pace so that we can store the data and perform any computations on it.
So I have a picture of the one at Pace. Can I hold it up for the camera? So we can talk about, this is a pod, correct?
Yeah.
For the pod. You got
Big
it?
name pod, yeah.
Oh, okay. Now I'll pass it around to the board if they haven't seen it.
That was taken from.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, just to give you a sense of the visual, that image was taken from about 75 feet away. Right, so.
My name is Kyle Hansen. I am a information systems major at Pace. So what I'm dealing with is with the data. So once we get the data, we're storing it in a SQL server. So basically a database where all the values are stored from all the water quality data, location data, any location about or any information about the pod. What we do is we basically make it accessible so we can take the data down and put it in easy format so we can give to other institutions, other groups that want to look at the data to come up with their own assumptions besides us. And it also, right now in development of a website where we would make the data available up there. So we have another outlet for displaying it. And we're also using the data to create visualizations. And these visualizations will basically allow people that don't necessarily know what the numbers mean to understand the conceptual ideas behind the data more efficiently than they would be by looking at a spreadsheet or a graph.
Can you give a couple of examples of what kind of data you're collecting?
So we're collecting, so like if we're getting pH and like dissolved oxygen and temperature, we can basically take those two variables and graph them so you can see as the temperature like goes up, the dissolved oxygen will go down. And so something like that would be indication of different environmental factors that would affect wildlife. Andrew can speak more to that than I could because I deal with computers. But that's what it would be named for you. And so something like the graph or the visualization would help somebody who doesn't necessarily understand what those numbers mean say like, oh, this picture is now really big and it's big in red. Okay, so maybe that means something's happening that we should take a look at.
Hi, my name is Andrew Welch. I'm pursuing my Master of Environmental Policy at Pace. So as Kyle and Will were talking about some of the IT and data behind this project, what we're hopeful for is that the innovations that we create through these efforts will hopefully create positive policy outcomes in the future for people here in Ossining and the Hudson Valley and hopefully across the world as we learn more about what these technologies can do. So it is an opportunity to educate students, future leaders, and current professionals. We hope to incubate that through our efforts. And as John was saying, we are hoping to get permission to anchor a platform in Kimmy's Cove. This is the initial permission we need. We will pursue other permissions from the Army Corps of Engineers, the state DEC, and whatever else we need along the way as we pursue those permits necessary. So this is the initial permission where we wanted to let you guys know what we're up to. And the next step is going to be reaching out to the Kimmy's Cove condos and creating kind of a consensus with them so that we can have a communication and a relationship there so that we're building a positive public outlook on this project.
One of the things, and Rick, why don't you come here for a second? One of the most important things that we're doing here, the environmental research is an important product, but what we're really emphasizing, because we're a university and we teach, we're emphasizing job skills, STEM training. I can tell you with confidence that between Albany and New York, there is no school that is training students on how to use this technology, how to use the data, how to deploy the equipment, how to operate the equipment, how to repair the equipment. This is next generation STEM and job skills. So that is going to be our big emphasis, is we're really creating a training center that is also going to produce research. And you want to just say a word about what some of those job skills are?
Well, many of our computer science and information technology majors end up in fields that you would recognize. A lot of them end up in finance and for big technology firms. But there are so many technology jobs in all areas, and environmental science is definitely of growing importance. And John and I have been rubbing elbows on various projects over the last several years, and this particular project really clicks for us, and the experience that first interns that we've hired have already gotten has proven to us that this is a great project worth pursuing and expanding.
This is a job area where the training is a big vacuum. We're not going to only look at our university students. We also want to partner with high school students, and the town supervisor and I were talking about this on the phone the other day. Ossining has such a remarkable science and engineering program that it's an ideal high school for us to partner with at that level. And then we'll also be doing a training program at our level of higher education, but also pre-professionals and professionals, because I can tell you from, when I speak to audiences about this kind of technology and about the future promise of it, the number of people who are not aware of the idea of sensors that can be in water, collect water quality data, send it through the air to a computer where we can actually understand water health and water bodies without having to go out and take samples. And when you go out and take samples, you don't know if you're going to be there at the right time. So storm events cause a lot of problems. They mobilize pollution, they send sediments into a water body, they change temperature and oxygen, but unless you're there when the storm occurs, you're not going to know that. But if you have real-time monitoring, you know these things as they're happening. And that's what makes this the future.
And speaking of storms, what happens in a storm event to one of these pods? Have you had that experience yet?
Not on this project, but I worked on a project like this for Clarkson University up in Beacon, New York, where we actually deployed platforms that were about 3 times the size of this. If they're well anchored, they'll ride the water well. Our intention is actually not in this year or even the next year to go out in the main stem of the river. One of our big interests, one of the reasons Kemmy's Cove is of interest to us, is that these embayments that were created by the construction of the railroad, they're part of the river. And the river sloshes in and out of them, as we know, and they have tides, just like the river does, and fish go in and out. But there's about 100 of them stretched up and down the Hudson River, and they've never been studied. And the one at Kemmy's Cove is about 1,000 by 600 feet, and it's right off the Tappan Zee, which is the heart of the Hudson River Estuary Nursery. So it's a fantastic place to study. And our attraction is in these pieces of the watershed that are actually not out in the main stem. Some of the tributaries and these backwaters. They also make ideal little labs because they're protected. There's access challenges. The bus company has promised us that little corner that's actually open where they park buses, we could launch from there. It's one of the only places you could actually launch. But it's a beautiful study area for that reason, and it's well protected. So they'd be anchored in the bottom, very well anchored in the bottom, and we don't have any concerns about them drifting. However, we know when they're gonna drift, because we actually there's a GPS on every one where we know the precise location, and if it moves, we know at the moment it's moving. So we have a little backup safety there.
And approximately how long do you think it would be, a length of time that you would want to have it anchored there from?
For this
I know
year,
you have to go through all the approvals.
For this year, whenever we can get it deployed and get our permission set up, we'd probably take it out in the beginning of November, because if skim ice starts drifting in there in December, we don't want to tangle with that. So it would be whatever time we can get between now and the beginning of November, for this year anyway.
All right, so I'm going to just open it up to questions from the town board. Anybody have any questions?
I had a question. I was just wondering, when the pod detects a problem, what is the process? What actually happens?
I'm sorry, say that again?
When the pod detects a problem, what's the process? What happens?
It doesn't detect problems per se. What it does is it takes water quality measurements, and then it's up to us to interpret it.
Okay, so when you interpret
and see if there's a problem. And that would be something that we would determine over a long period of time. So in this instance, one of the things we'd be very interested in is whether Kemmy's Cove, the Hudson River has an abundance of oxygen, but whether Kemmy's Cove has an abundance of oxygen, we don't know. That habitat hasn't really been studied. So this would be something, New York State has a Hudson River Estuary Management Program that manages the river and the estuary and even waters like this, though they haven't studied them. It's from a bill I wrote, actually, when I was the Hudson River Keeper. So what we would do is we would take that information, sit down with river managers, and work with them about it. It could mean that, This is not necessarily so. But this could be true up and down the river where we have these embayments. Maybe they don't have enough water going in and out between them and the river to support life. So this will give us some of that information.
But also, you're sharing the information with others that might act upon it, right? It's
Yeah,
not
and, yeah,
just-
and as Kyle was alluding to, yeah, this will be public information. It'll be publicly available. We will also train students on how to read it and how to understand it as well. But it'll be publicly available. There'll be a visualization online once that's finished.
I have one question. What you find that, what are you actually looking for?
water quality.
Okay, we're looking to
quality.
we're looking to understand. In the case of Kemmy's Cove,
Right.
we're looking to understand the quality of water in Kemmy's Cove over a long period of time. So Kemmy's Cove, like the river, rises 3 feet, 6 hours later drops 3 feet, rises 3 feet. It responds to storm events, and the temperature is changing. One of the great things about between now and November is we'll get a great temperature change. And we'll get to see, for example, how does the oxygen change as the temperature changes between now and November. So it's to evaluate the water quality and how Kemmy's Cove actually changes over time.
Then, once you get this information, what do you do?
Well, it depends on what we find. I mean, it leads to ideally a better understanding of Kemmy's Cove and how much life it can support, because it is part of the river. We may not actually do anything other than learn how this body of water works, what kind of life it supports, what its quality is, and in fact, whether or not it needs improvement. This would be perhaps a first step towards a longer-term project where biologists go down and collect fish, where we actually take samples from the mud and look at contaminants in there.
But it sounds to me like it's not just, yes, you are testing the water quality,
Yeah.
but you're also testing the technology, right? And you're trying to you find out how you can best utilize the technology so that it can be used for, to be rolled out into other bodies of water or,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. This would be our first deployment outside of our test deployment.
Right.
And again, to go back to a point I made earlier, one of the most important things we're going to be doing, and this pod in Kemmy's Cove would be part of it, is actually training people on how to use the technology, because there are no schools training students or even engineers. We would be doing continuing education programs for engineers. Engineers don't learn about this technology either. It would make our little section of Westchester County here, Pace is right down the road in Ossining. It would take this, and our laboratory is down at 47 Hudson.
And Riverkeeper.
We would create essentially, what's that?
And Riverkeeper.
Yeah,
is right
and
there.
Riverkeeper is right here,
Don't forget
my
them.
former employer.
Yep.
We would actually be creating a training center and probably become known for it because there's no place else to do it. I can tell you that in just the work we've done already, we've had engineers from General Electric, engineers from IBM, engineers from a group called Anchor QEA, who have all come down to our facility at 47 Hudson and sat and worked with us. And so we already have some terrific professional partners who want to work with us specifically on this training because they know the next generation isn't being trained in this. You almost have to wait till you get to graduate school before you learn any of this technology. And we want to cut through all that.
And you pick Kemmy's Cove because it's sheltered and it won't be prone to flooding the way the Croton River would, or is it just these tidal areas that behind the train tracks that you're really interested in?
Yeah, it's the latter. It's the proximity of Kemmy's Cove to where our lab is, which is not even a mile down the road from us.
So do you already have information on what some of the nursery fish need in way of oxygen and nutrients and everything, and then you would find out what if these things are in the water and if it would support the nursery fish, or
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good question. So our section of the river here, I took time out from my career, and I was actually a commercial fisherman out here. I don't know if any of you remember Henry Gordine from Ossining.
We all do.
Yeah, Henry.
There's a park named after him now.
That's right, of course. Yeah, well, of course you do. So Henry taught me how to build boats. Henry taught me how to make nets. He taught me how to fish. I spent a lot of time with him. And as Hudson River Keeper, we worked a lot on estuary management. So there's a lot of good information about what fish require. Whether or not Kemmy's Cove will support that, eel, when shadow, bay anchovy would be another fish that might migrate in there. We know there's carp in there. We went down and looked, and there's who was with me? Andrew. There is some big old carp in there. They're actually invasive species, believe it or not, and they make a mess, when they're swimming around there. But there's a lot. Whether blue crab come in there, blue crab are running now, and whether or not they're going to come in there. I used to crab off of Nyack with Bob Gabrielson, a different fisherman, but right off Hook Mountain. So whether or not blue crab are coming in there, we'd like to know. And all of those fish, all those species need abundant oxygen.
So suppose that they don't have enough oxygen, then what?
Well, then we have to sit down and talk about what can be done about it. I hesitate to say too much publicly about what the solution would be, but one solution might be is that there isn't enough water coming from the river in and out of Kemmy's Cove, and somehow that needs to be improved. And that would be a piece of information that nobody's had yet.
Because I was listening when you were saying about the water coming in and out. Because Kemmy's Cove used to flood. I don't know that it still do it. But
It will.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
But I know that it used to flood a lot. Water be all up in the lot, parking area and everywhere.
Kemmy's Cove will flood if there are high tides. It doesn't respond to rain, because the river doesn't respond to rain either. Kemmy's Cove is at sea level. So if we get like Sandy completely went outside of the boundaries of Kemmy's Cove, as we all know, right into the Scarborough parking lot. So it's controlled by tidal storms. So if there are tidal surges, Kemmy's Cove will flood. And those tidal surges come from off the coast. They don't even come from our neighborhood. But it can happen. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you any more questions on it because
I am.
Yeah, there's such interesting questions, though. As you can tell, I'll answer them all night long.
Maybe another time after we get going with it, we'll know more.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited that that you're teaching this technology and the data analytics and getting the data component put together too. Are you looking forward to, as you start training more and more of your students and people on this, to putting them in the river body itself, or are you sticking with the estuaries for now?
Well, right now, there are some real-time monitoring going on in the river. Stevens Institute from New Jersey is doing some, and the Department of Environmental Conservation is doing some. We are more interested in the waters that interact with the Hudson and feed the Hudson, Pacantico River is another body of water we're interested in, because there's a lot of work going on there now. We have about a dozen of these pods.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and so we're going to be doing several deployments around the area. We're probably only going to deploy half of them over time, and then save the other half for spare parts because they're very expensive. Though, interestingly, the parent company who makes the sensors that we use that go under the water and collect the data is in Rye Brook. So we're going to go have a meeting with them, as you can imagine.
Could I just ask one question?
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit briefly about the other permits you're looking for, DEC, Army Corps, and what they're looking at with respect to what you're going to be doing and where you are in that process?
Absolutely. So I'm currently in process of speaking with the General Services Administration. I spoke with Army Corps of Engineers last week. Based on our conversations, we determined that we would be under a national permit, just the general permit. So it's to explain further, it's a system where essentially the permits are already given. It can only be revoked. And so we give them information on the potential environmental impact, the plan, any information such as pictures otherwise that we would be doing. So we are in the process of completing the general application now. And as far as that, after that, we go to DEC to confirm that we are in compliance with any of the other regulations that they may have. So that is our next step, as I said. But yes, we are in process.
And there's a special category for scientific equipment.
Absolutely, yes. There is. We will fall under the categorization of scientific instruments, which is under the national permit, a classification that As you can imagine, it just gives you certain information that you need to include, which is more limited than, say, a boat mooring or a oil barge or something like that. This is a low impact deployment.
Okay, so they'll just be looking at the environmental aspects of this
Yes.
from, on a more specific level. And do they need anything from the town in order to move forward with your application or considering issuing the permit?
At this point, I have not heard back from the General Service Administration on what their take on who owns the land under the water. Based on our understanding and what we understand the town to believe, it would be the town. So once we go forward with that, we would have a formal permission from the town as a part of our application to clarify it. So once we apply, we'll have the location and they'll consider the land under the water, and that would be part of it, would be a formal permission.
Okay.
But it's safe to say that the Army Corps and the Army Corps and the DEC are not going to grant us a permit, are not going to allow us to use the national permit if we don't have permission from the town.
Correct.
Because whoever the property owner is, you have to have permission, or else they won't even proceed. Yeah,
Understood. Thank you.
right, sure. And it's a Section 404 permit under the Clean Water Act, right?
That is part of yes.
Yeah.
Is that it? Okay.
I believe that when,
Okay.
I believe that when Tavokus was here,
The former town supervisor.
oh, I'm sorry, the, I just can't remember it well, but, I believe that was given as, it may be parkland.
Parkland.
I think that's its zoning classification now, just to be clear, the water, if we were just floating this and we weren't anchoring it, we actually wouldn't need anybody's permission. We would come to you anyway. But it's because nobody can own the water. The Hudson River and the water of the cove itself is a public trust. It's a public ownership. It's the land that's in question because we'd be anchoring. And my understanding when I looked at the zoning map is that that section is actually zoned park, the southern half. So the town owns the southern half of Chemies, and the condominium, as we understand it, owns the northern half of Chemies, the land underwater. But I think the zoning is park for some reason. Yeah. Yeah, so I believe, that's the map I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah, what you said. Yeah, right.
Are there any other
But nobody's going to be putting any kid swings in there anytime soon, right?
I think this is really exciting. There's probably a couple of things that we just need to look into from a legal perspective. My guess is that if the town were generally in favor, just kind of temperature, which it looks like they are, that our next steps would be to probably draw up some kind of a memorandum of understanding, or have you draw something up that we would then review and make sure that we're covered and that we're not going to be liable for any that goes wrong. We would hope then you would also go out and meet with the folks at Chemies Cove to make sure that there are no concerns that arise from their end of it, just so that we can make sure that the public is on board with this as well. And then I guess we would draft a resolution to accept whatever memorandum of understanding, and that would come up at a future board meeting.
Excellent.
And once
All
you
right.
have
Do you
any
have a
more information
timetable?
about what exactly it is that you need,
They have a timetable.
you could provide that to the town to make it, so we can make sure if the town board is so inclined,
Right.
that they're giving the authority that you require for your permit.
Yeah, for the other permit, yeah, absolutely,
And Professor
absolutely.
Cronin, I think you had mentioned in terms of timetable that you were hopeful that you could get something in before the end of the summer, early fall, or something like that. You were hopeful.
My hope is
Yes.
that we could get something deployed by September.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
And,
the hope.
and the state and federal permit, generally speaking, these national permits, which, as Andrew explained well, they're there, and then you're told whether or not you qualify, as opposed to a long-term permit process. And hopefully that's a quick process too, and it usually is, the national permits. So, yeah, it would be great if we could deploy by September.
And I think this is a fantastically exciting project. As you know, you and I had discussed on the phone, I think there's great opportunities for learning at all levels, and hopefully you can connect with with the Ossining School District and possibly also the Briarcliff School District.
Sure.
Because they're right there as well. I think that's the bus, there's the bus companies there maybe, right, that's letting you scoot in.
Yeah, well, when we
So-
drive from Pace, we pass everybody.
Right.
Yeah, on the way
Right,
to the river.
exactly.
Yeah,
So in any case, it's very exciting, and thank you so much for coming out this evening to explain it to us, and hopefully we can come up with a solution to move forward.
Great. Well, thank you all for your kind attention. We really appreciate it very much.
All right,
Yeah.
have a great night.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so next up. We are going to have a motion to go into our regular meeting. Even though I already announced that we're in a regular meeting, but that's okay. I forgot that we were starting with our work session. So motion to go into our regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we're going to start.
Okay. Councilmember Shaw,
Present.
Councilmember Tory,
Present.
Councilmember Wiltshire,
Present.
Councilmember Feldman,
Present.
and Supervisor Levenberg.
Here I am.
Okay, so first we have two public hearings. The first, local law number 4, regulating use of leaf blowers within unincorporated town. Anyone is here to address the board?
So is there anybody here to address the board on our leaf blower legislation? There is one person who is here and is not coming to us to discuss that. So if the board does not have anything further, we are going to leave this open because we have not yet heard from our EAC on this. Do we want to read into the minutes? We did receive a couple of emails, and I was thinking maybe we would like to read into the minutes some of the comments. I don't know if that, I mean, it's not something we usually do, but I'm not sure if that would behoove us. One was from Green Ossining. One was from a local, I think, is she part of a former EAC member? And one was from our cemetery, superintendent of Dale Cemetery.
Oh, I mean,
Is it advisable, or?
you could read them, you could post them on the website.
Okay,
with
so
the
how about
rest
we
of the
po-
public
well-
hearing? It should be submitted to the clerk's office so that it can be a part of the official public record of the public hearing the town board is holding on this local law. I don't know if it's necessary to read everything into the record.
Okay, so they're long letters, so let's post them on the
Like
website.
Posting is good.
Everybody's in
Posting is
favor,
good.
and I think everybody's had an opportunity to familiarize yourself with those comments?
Yes.
Okay.
If you just briefly, at the work session last week, we did have a discussion about looking at some other municipalities to see what they were doing in terms of this sort of regulation. Specifically, there was discussion of looking at municipalities of a similar socioeconomic status to Ossining. The supervisor mentioned the Village of Port Chester and the City of New Rochelle, so I pulled those code provisions, and both municipalities only regulate based upon the times of day and times of year when leaf blowers are allowed to be used, and don't expand into the more detailed regulations that were in the first draft that this board was provided with, which was based upon, I believe, the city of Rye, because that was one of the initial discussions. I also looked at Briarcliff Manor because there was some mention that there had been some changes to their noise ordinance. I found a draft from April, but the changes had to do with heavy construction equipment and did not have to deal with the leaf blowers, which Briarcliff Manor also only regulates to the extent of time of day and time of year. So I can prepare a memo for you outlining that if you want it, or if you want, with that information, if you want to discuss this at a further work session.
Yeah, that would be great if you could just send us a little brief memo with some of the main points. And then was one of the issues I thought we were all kind of concerned about was how it affected our own public works departments. Specifically, no, that wasn't what we talked about for like, does everybody exempt their own departments?
Well, these don't. The ones that I saw, it's only with respect to, they only say what time of day you can use it. Some do exempt their public works, some don't. But I think that's specific to a municipality and what the needs of the municipality are. I don't know that any other municipalities maybe have quite as many large parks as you do, or the Dale Cemetery, which
Right.
is a unique, obviously, property, which I think is part of the reason why you had P. Connolly weigh in and provide his comments. And when we also first were discussing this at a work session a few months ago, I know Mario had weighed in and he had some thoughts about it too. So maybe now that you have the public hearing open, it may be worthwhile to have him weigh in.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think most of the comments were that, for the most part, because they do mulch in place in the park, so they don't have a lot of leaf litter, but they tend to use the blowers to clear the pavement more than anything. One of the issues that had come up that Donna Sheridan raised was that the disturbance to the ground when you utilize leaf blowers on the grass, and that it's bad for all of the living things that, and, in the grass. But what, for the most part, they're using it for is not to blow off the stuff from the grass, but to blow the stuff off from the sidewalks and the paved areas in the parks, to basically to clear them. So, and I know that Pete was concerned about the amount of time that it would take if they weren't able to use the leaf blowers, and even if they were able to only use electric leaf blowers, because the electric leaf blowers just don't have the power yet that the gas-powered leaf blowers do have. So that's been a concern, and obviously, cemeteries have a unique set of circumstances that are different from any other. To get around all of the different stones is something that the machine is probably better able to do than anything else.
Believe it or not, those leaf blowers, those electric leaf blowers are very strong.
Are they? Yeah.
But the thing is, they're electric, and
Right.
you're going to have a motor.
Battery.
No, trying to think what it's called. You start it up and run it.
Generator?
Generator.
Oh.
You're going to need that. So, I mean, you're stepping out of the one into another here.
Mm-hmm.
So you best think about this very carefully, because your cords are not going to reach everybody's lawns all out.
Right. And that's why we were looking at the acreage to determine how many we would allow per acre, and to try to be considerate for different size. But we also know that there are other options, and once again, I'm gonna say it again. I think this is what Rena Osnine said, is that, I have a list of the municipalities, I think, that have already adopted leaf blower legislation, and Yonkers has had it gas power banned since 2007. So 11 years. White Plains banned gas-powered leaf blowers since, whatever. So White Plains has banned gas-powered leaf blowers. Tuckahoe has banned gas-powered leaf blowers. Tarrytown, and not forever, but like from June through September, or May through September. Tarrytown has no use on weekends from September 16th to the June 14th. Sleepy Hollow banned gas-powered leaf blowers. Rye, gas and electric. Pelham, gas. New Rochelle, gas and electric. Scarsdale, gas. Mamaroneck, gas-powered leaf blowers. Larchmont, Hastings, Dobbs Ferry, and Bronxville.
How many of those exempted the municipalities?
I don't know. I don't have that information. So that's one of the things that I thought we were going to take a look at, so we can look at that.
The argument for municipality is also the same argument for people.
Right. But again, this is just during leaf season. It's not during leaf
Right.
season.
No, I
It's-
get that.
so again, so it's like you can't just go out there and use these whenever the heck you want. You can use them during the leaf season, right? That's sort
Right,
of
but
the
it just
point
kind
of
of
it.
feels, like
That
nobody
you
can
have all
use them
those
except
leaves.
for our guys. Feels wrong.
It does.
Just saying.
The other thing is that generally, a lot of municipalities do take the position that they're not bound by their own local land use regulations. So even if it's not expressly put in the zoning ordinance, they may very well informally take that position without us having any way of knowing it.
Alrighty. Okay, so anyhow, so we're going to take a motion to
Adjourn
Adjourn.
the public hearing to be continued at your next regular meeting on August 14th.
No, not
We don't have
August.
an August 14th meeting, so we're
Right,
gonna say
so
August 7th.
7th, okay. So I thought we were, August 7th is a work session, and the special meeting was going to be the following.
We're gonna have to do both.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to adjourn, take a motion to adjourn the public hearing to August 7th. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, next we have another public hearing for local law number 5 of 2018, entitled Changes to Accessory Apartment Regulations Within the Unincorporated Town. Is there anyone to address the board?
Are you here to, okay,
That's my son.
that's your son.
I don't know why, you see.
Proud of you.
All right, we're keen to just watch his dad at a meeting, and so far, he's been, okay, we got thumbs up for Councilman Wiltshire. It's doing a great job so far. Okay. Okay, so hearing none, we will also are waiting some feedback on this draft local law from our planning board,
Zoning board.
our zoning
So
board.
because this is a special permit that is the way drafted, well, as previously implemented, was granted by the zoning board, or they heard the applications at least, and as it's currently drafted, will still be in the purview of the zoning board. The board thought it was a good idea, rightfully so, to have the zoning board weigh in on it. It has been circulated to them. I have received individual comments, but they are having a meeting on August 6th, which we didn't previously know. So I think it would be beneficial to have them discuss it among a quorum of them at that meeting, and then I can prepare a memorandum for this board with their collective comments. Their meeting is August 6th. I understand the next meeting is August 7th, so I will do my best to get you something in writing before 7:30 p.m. on August 7th.
And if not, we can also adjourn the public hearing to another.
Or, barring
date.
unforeseen circumstances, I will be at the August 7th meeting, so I can
Yes.
also report orally on
Yes,
what
you can.
transpires the
You
night
can
before.
indeed. Okay, so with that said, do I have a motion to adjourn this public hearing to August 7th? All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Any opposed? All right. Next up, we have announcements. And I best use this nice little pad I have. I do have a lot. I'm just warning you right now. I get tired of my voice. I'm getting the looks already before I even started. I'm very excited to highlight our recent ribbon cutting in the village of Briarcliff at the intersection of Route 9A and North State Road, which we had on this past Sunday at 11 a.m. The improvements to this intersection were very long in the planning stages, and I heard actually that day, I think maybe 15 years in Briarcliff, they had plans for this intersection to change. We're so happy to report that they are up and running, and as of now, to great acclaim. Thanks are in order to the Village of Briarcliff, who served as lead agency and oversaw all of the many complex facets of this project, and specifically Village Manager Phil Zagarelli, to our state legislators, Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff and Senator David Carlucci, for helping out with their state multimodal funds directed towards helping this become a reality, some of which got directed to us as well, to Westchester County Legislator Catherine Borgia and the county for their help with approving using a piece of designated parkland, I believe, to help form the lanes to widen the intersection so it could accommodate turning lanes, to the village engineers and those they hired, and to the New York State DOT and Todd Westhoist, who was the New York State DOT Regional 8 Director at the time that this project finally got some traction and started to move forward, and his team, who understood the value of this collaboration and this corridor. Also, thanks to the prior Town of Austin Supervisor, Suzanne Donnelly, and the board under her, who originally agreed to help fund this project, and to the current town board for making sure we continue to do so, and all of whom understand why these types of collaborations are so important. We were out of pocket about $80,000 to date from the town general fund for this, which seems to be money very well spent for a road project of this magnitude. We just received our last bill to date today, I believe, for about $112 from the Village of Briarcliff before the final truing up at the end of the project. We will keep everyone posted. I attended a Westchester Municipal Officials meeting last week where we heard from Dr. Jerry Benjamin from the Benjamin Center at SUNY New Paltz. They, along with the Rockefeller Institute, are working with Westchester County to prepare the county's shared services plan as mandated by New York State. And he was here sharing some initial plans and proposals with some municipal officials to solicit our feedback, and we'll have more information as that gets closer to final. I was honored to serve as one of the judges last week at Atria on Hudson's second annual Chef Showdown with tomatoes at the centerpiece of the menu. Atria's in-house Chef Julie made a fantastic fried green tomato sandwich with aioli and arugula, but was edged out by Team Ossinin's Mayor Victoria Garrity, who had a little help from chef, Food Network judge, and cookbook author Lex Taylor with their tomato-flavored soft tortilla and spicy salsa. Kudos to all the participants for highlighting fresh, local food and cooking from scratch healthy options for our seniors. Also, last week I attended a meeting. I also attended Assemblywoman Sandy Gelf's senior forum up in town of Cortland, which was excellent. I especially loved the talk by the guy from AAA who reaffirmed how you should set your side view mirrors so that you don't get blinded in the night. And I'll tell you guys all that little tip after this meeting. Also, last week I attended a meeting hosted by Sustainable Westchester to discuss the next contract for community choice aggregation. The current contract is up at the end of this year, and they are hoping to go out to bid for a new round of proposals from power providers. The good news is the CCA has saved on all accounts, the green as well as the standard residential accounts. The rest of the state is now looking to Westchester as a model for bulk purchasing of electric power. This also helps increase demand for green energy generation, and we're hopeful we will also be able to hold down rates for ratepayers in Ossining as we did with this first contract. So we are planning to have someone from Westchester Power, Sustainable Westchester, come meet with us on August 7th so they can talk to us about re-upping with memorandum of understanding between us and Westchester Power to go out to bid for the next round of proposals from providers. Finally, I participated in a conference call with the Village of Ossining and Green Ossining representatives, as well as Hudson 511 Rideshare New York, to discuss the possibility of piloting a dockless bike program in Ossining to lead up to Car Free Day on September 21st, which I think I mentioned to you briefly at the last meeting. Partners who have already agreed to participate include Open Door Family Medical Centers in the Car Free Day, Ossining Schools, Greater Ossining Chamber of Commerce, and Sing Sing Correctional Facility. And they've already been reached out to by 511 Rideshare, which is great because that basically what they do is they call and work with employers to determine how many people are driving their separate individual cars to see if they can set up ride shares. And that is of great benefit to everybody because it reduces the amount of parking that you need at your place, your location, as well as, obviously, it's great for the environment. We're also hoping to provide on-demand shuttle service as another option, almost like a trolley service, and we will be in talks soon with a company that provide those services to see if this would be possible for this particular day and maybe leading up to it, similar to this, the dockless bike program. This Saturday, July 28th, we will be doing something very exciting, the inaugural MOGO Bike Ride. As you know, the town, along with the Village of Ossining and the town of Newcastle, has been working to create routes from downtown areas to the North County Trailway, and MOGO has worked with Westchester Cycle Club to create several routes, and this ride is the first opportunity to ride with an escort. Join your guides, Kate and Victor, for a modified version of the Briarcliff route, starting at Ossining High School's Walden Road lot at 10 a.m. They were going to make their way to the trail. I said I might try to go. I'm hoping to. And ride for a while, and the trail being the North County Trailway. The distance will be modified and or differentiated depending on the needs of the group. It's a great ride for anyone living locally who would like to become more active on their bicycle. There will be lots of support during the ride, and there will be a safety talk before getting started. But please be prepared with a working bicycle with gears. Yes, there are some hills. There will be a pump available to help you at the start, but if you have not been on your bike for a while, it's a good idea to take it to a local bike shop to get it tuned up. A helmet is a must, and please bring a water bottle. Rain will cancel the ride, so check back by 7 a.m. that morning for an update on their Facebook event, Millwood Ossining Go, inaugural community bike ride. And hopefully that will get you more amped up for our car-free day in September. Our concert last Friday night saw another wonderful turnout. Jigsaw, an Austin favorite, came together and entertained the audience of about 350. I did count. This week, we have another favorite, our extremely talented and wonderful KJ Dennert with her jazzy, folksy singer-songwriter originals, Tales from the Road, and more. She's just terrific. The concert starts at 7 p.m. on Friday the 27th. We may also have a return of our friend Homespun Merry-Go-Round, the solar-powered merry-go-round that has been keeping the kids happy at the concerts. Plus, the Gyro Uno truck will be there, and a new truck will be there as well, Three Little Pigs Barbecue from Hawthorne, who have promised us they will have some extra special treats on offer. Bring your lawn chair and some friends. These concerts are free. I hope to see many of you. And the following week, our concert with Powderfinger will be on Thursday night, August 2nd. That's our only Thursday night concert, because we will have the fire parade that Friday evening at the waterfront on August 3rd. If you are loving these concerts, the fire parade ends at the waterfront. It starts up in the middle of the village by Melrose, I believe. Camp Woods Road. If you are loving these outdoor concerts and haven't yet made it over to Briarcliff, this Thursday evening, the Briarcliff Manor Chamber of Commerce will host their third concert in their 2018 series, featuring the band Homegrown from 7 to 9. Admission is free there as well, so enjoy Law Park Field in Briarcliff and the evening of live music, singing, dancing, and food and beverages, which are available from the folks at 10510 and the newly opened Mission Taqueria Pleasantville. The last concert in the Briarcliff 2018 series will be on Thursday, August 2nd, where Austin's own Mike Risco Band will be rocking the stage from 6 to 9. If you can't decide between the waterfront concert and Briarcliff's Law Park, I should tell you that the Riscos will be in Austin on Friday, August 10th, in case that helps you inform your decision. If you've been meaning to bring some more calm into your life, summer's a great time to start, and Mariandale has your back. Beginning tomorrow, Wednesday, 7/25, they will be holding 3 events to help you get your zen back before the hustle of fall begins again. All of the following events will be held on the Mariandale Center campus at 299 North Highland Avenue. Visit www.mariandale.org for more information on what you need to wear and bring along for each session, as well as what, if anything, you will be charged for the class. There's Sunset Qigong, aligning mind, body, and spirit with universal energy, Wednesday, July 25th at 7:30 p.m. Yoga for relaxation, rejuvenation, and balance, Thursday, July 26th at 6:15 p.m. And aqua meditation, Friday, July 27th at 5 p.m. On Saturday, July 28th, Westchester County Department of Health will be sponsoring a free rabies clinic for dogs, cats, and ferrets at the SPCA on North State Road between 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. Appointments are required for your furry friend. Please call 941-2896, extension 10, to plan a visit. Westchester residents only, please. Cats and ferrets must be in carriers. Dogs must be leashed, and aggressive dogs must be muzzled. All pets must be supervised by an adult. That evening, WCT will host Jerry Malkin Collective with Ingrid Jensen as part of their Jazz Master Series. Ingrid Jensen recently worked with some musicians from Austin High School and was phenomenal. So take advantage of this opportunity to hear some first-class musicians right in our backyard. Doors open at 7 p.m. for the 8 p.m. performance. Admission is $20 per person. Visit wctheater.org for more information and for tickets. Finally, there are 2 great events taking place later this month to support the Croton and Austin Community Tennis Association. How many times have I said finally? I said finally, and I know it's not really finally, so just don't get your hopes up, you guys. The Summer Sizzler is a 2-part fundraiser, all taking place on Saturday, July 28th. Part 1 is a social tennis mixer at Shannon Ross Tennis Courts at Nelson Park from 2 to 5 p.m. If you want to get in on a little friendly competition, just register, and they'll work out the schedule and teams for you. Part 2 is a party at the home of Patrice and Jeff Davidson in Croton from 7 to 9:30, including Jeff's world-class barbecue. To participate, reserve your spot for one or both events by visiting crotontennis.org. And since we are not going to be together again until August 7th, because next week is a 5th Tuesday, I will ask you to stay with me for a couple more events to mark your calendars. On Wednesday, August 8th, Green Austin and the Sierra Club will be co-sponsoring the screening of Reinventing Power in the Boudars Theater at the Austin Public Library. The 50-minute film will introduce you to people in 8 states who who have had their lives changed by the renewable energy industry. Come learn. We lost Mr. Wiltshire. What? We're just getting into the good stuff. How we do not need to choose between sacrificing jobs and sacrificing our environment. The film will be followed by a moderated discussion. This free event begins at 7 p.m. On Saturday, August 11th at 12:30 p.m., the Austin Public Library will be burying its time capsule as part of its 125th anniversary celebration. You're all welcome to attend. Light refreshments will be served on the back patio on library grounds. This event is open to the public. To prepare for this exciting day on Saturday, July 28th, children and teens are able to create their own smaller version of a time capsule to take home with them. They will also create a memento to place in the time capsule that will be buried on the library grounds, and this will happen from 2 to 4 p.m. in the cafe area of the library. On Monday, August 13th, which seems like ages from now, but will be here before you know it, the Jug Tavern will present From Garden to Table, a lecture on the local colonial diet that folks in our region enjoyed back in the 17th century, and the evening will end with refreshments based on historic recipes. I did attend this last year, and it was fantastic, so I do recommend it. The book talk is by Peter G. Rose, author, food historian, and Westchester resident, and is part of the Sparta Speaks 2018 series. It's a free event. Seating is limited, as is everything at the Jug, so make sure you register or email info@jugtavern.org to save your spot. Doors open at 7 p.m. Any other announcements? Do we have Mind, Body, Spirit for this week? Do we? What? Zumba with Susu at 3 p.m. at the waterfront at Engle Park on Saturday. Okay.
What time's the fire department?
Fire department, I believe, is at 5 p.m. on August 3rd. 5 p.m. You know what? Let me look quickly at my calendar because I do think I have that on there. I'm pretty sure it starts at 5. So that as well, but let me just get that. Oh, I'm sorry, 6:45. 6:45, yes. 6:45 is step off. Thank you.
And Shadowmuck's plein air? Out is August 4th.
August 4th is Shadowmuck's plein air, where you get to see artists painting open air and then come back for the show at the end of the day, correct?
Right. So I think they're painting all day, and then you get to view the paintings between 3 and 5 with an auction with, I believe, wine and cheese available.
It's a silent auction for the pieces of art.
No, it's a live auction with
live
panels
auction.
and everything. It's
Live
great.
auction. Oh, okay.
It's really nice to see. There's a lot of very talented people participating in the art this year, and you can watch them create it and pick the ones that you like or is of your boat if you happen to have one there, and then bid on it and have a lot of fun. So that's really a great event to go to.
Okay, and there's one more thing, which is the Ferry Sloops is having their fundraiser this Saturday, the 28th, up at Peekskill Launch at 6 p.m. And also Bethany Arts Community has the Pros of Pie, which has been very popular, also this Saturday at 7:30 p.m. Tonight they also have a wonderful event, but we can't be there because we're here. So I think that's it. Other announcements?
I believe on August 4th at 3 o'clock, Nelson Park, there's a sports day. There's going to be sporting events, soccer, basketball, and some other craft activities for younger kids. And I believe it's August 4th, Nelson. Starts at 3 o'clock.
And at Nelson Sitting Park on Wednesdays at 4 p.m., I think, the school district invites people to come and read to the kids. 4 o'clock. No? Okay. Something like that. Look up on the Austin School District website if you're interested in coming out to read to students. And Mr. Wiltshire, I thought you were looking in your glasses just to see if there's anything up there to make sure. Okay. With that, we will move on to liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports this evening? Hearing none, we'll move right into public comment. Mr. Wiltshire the Younger is gone, so he's not going to be commenting, and we have no other public here to comment. So we will move into our board resolution with our acting clerk, Victoria Caffarelli, here to read our resolutions.
Okay, so first we have approval of minutes, regular meeting. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining hereby approves the July 10th, 2018 minutes of the regular meeting as presented.
I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Next, approval of minutes special meeting. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby approves the July 17th, 2018 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
Motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstention.
And any abstentions? Yes, we do have one. Okay. Councilwoman Dottori is abstaining.
Okay. Approval of voucher detail report. Resolved that the town board hereby approves the voucher detail report dated July 24th, 2018 in the amount of $399,823.97.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
Discussion? Any questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Next is the MOGO Millwood Austining Go plan adoption. Whereas the towns of Austining and Newcastle and the village of Austining were awarded a $30,000 grant from the Hudson River Valley Greenways Trail Grant Program to develop a plan for an open space bike lane commerce connectivity corridor, and whereas the corridor plan project was named Millwood Austining Go, and a task force was formed to identify pedestrian and bike accessible routes between commercial zones and open space in the Austining and Newcastle area, including the Austining train station, business districts in downtown Austining along North State Road and the Millwood Hamlet, as well as to the many beloved open spaces in the region. And whereas this trail network will be an emerald necklace for the region, bolstering economic development and the tourism industry, while reducing the community's environmental impact through the conservation of open space and decreased dependence on cars for transportation. And whereas these improvements for pedestrian and bike access will address environmental and economic justice inequities, especially for residents in our community that do not have access to a car for transportation to and from work, school, and play. And whereas the task force has developed a draft plan for bike and pedestrian connectivity in the region, including input from the neighboring municipalities of the town of Yorktown and the village of Briarcliff Manor, as both geographically connect to the study area. And whereas this plan has identified potential routes for enhanced bike and pedestrian accessibility, as well as recommended next steps for implementation and ways to make Austining and Newcastle more bike and pedestrian friendly, now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby adopts the Millwood Austining Go plan as drafted by the Intermunicipal Task Force, and be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Austining agrees to take steps towards implementing the recommendations of the Millwood Austining Go plan as practical and feasible.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay, so last week I presented the MOGO plan to the town board. It is a broad plan offering multi-level options for bicycle and pedestrian connections from the waterfront and downtown in the village of Austining through the commercial corridors in the village of Austining, town of Austining, and village of Briarcliff to the North County Trailway, Empire State Trail in the hamlet of Millwood, town of Newcastle. By adopting this plan, we would now have a blueprint from which to work to apply for grants, incorporate street striping for bicycles, and other planning and engineering that would enhance cycling and walking options in our town. So does anybody have any questions, or is there any discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Woohoo! I'm excited about that one.
Okay.
Long and coming, so thank you very much for that support.
The next is calling for a public hearing, local law number 6 of 2018, amending chapter 200, zoning of the town code with respect to solar energy systems. Resolved that the town board of the town of Austining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, August 7th, 2018 at 7:30 p.m. at Austining Town Village Hall, 16 Croton Avenue, Austining, New York, in the matter of local law number 6 of 2018, entitled Amending Chapter 200, Zoning of the Town Code with respect to solar energy systems.
Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, so our planner, David Stolman, presented this proposed amendment to the zoning code to the board at our work session on June 19th. We would now like to open this up for public comment and public hearing to solicit comments from the public starting on August 7th. Please feel free to attend the public hearing, or alternatively, send your written comments to the town board. And you can do that by sending them to me at dlevenberg@townofaustining.com, or you can send it to town council, TC. It always comes up at TC, but I thought you could type in town council, but maybe not. TC townofaustining.com, either or. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Set for that public hearing.
Okay. Next, stipulation of agreement between the town of Ossining and Local 456. Be it resolved that upon recommendation of the town supervisor, the town board hereby ratifies and approves the stipulation of agreement regarding the increased compensation of lead cemetery worker and cemetery worker in lieu of on-site housing between the town and Local 456, International Brotherhood of Teamsters, Chauffeurs, Warehousemen, and Helpers of America, AFL-CIO, effective August 1st, 2018, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized to execute the stipulation on the town's behalf.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
In an effort to make sure our workers are safe while we make improvements to the superintendent's cottage at Dale Cemetery, we have had to ask 2 of our employees to relocate. We realize the significant value that housing has to their bottom line, so we have augmented their salary to compensate for this loss. Thank Teamsters Local 456 for working with us to achieve an agreeable outcome for all. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Climate Smart Communities Grant Program, Town of Ossining Climate Smart Communities Certification. Whereas the Town of Ossining is a registered climate smart community, and whereas the Town of Ossining has been working towards earning bronze level certification from the Climate Smart Communities Program by implementing policies that support environmental sustainability, and whereas the Town of Ossining would like to implement Pledge Element 6 actions to complete a comprehensive plan with sustainability elements and planning and infrastructure for bicycling and walking, as both actions align closely with the town's policy objectives, and whereas funding is available to complete these actions through the Climate Smart Communities grant funding through the New York State Consolidated Funding application, and whereas Pace University Land Use Law Center and Westchester County have offered consulting services and community engagement assistance to support the town's 50% match requirements for the Climate Smart Communities Grant Program. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes a submission of a grant application entitled Town of Ossining Climate Smart Communities Certification to the Climate Smart Communities Program under the Consolidated Funding application to complete a certification project for a comprehensive plan with sustainability elements and planning and infrastructure for bicycling and walking. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining commits $100,000 in matching funds for this project in the form of cash and in-kind match with assistance from its partners, the Pace University Land Use Law Center and Westchester County, as required by the Climate Smart Communities Grant Program to match the town's $100,000 grant request to fund planning consultant.
So, do I have a motion?
Second.
As we discussed at last week's work session, the town is applying through the New York State Consolidated Funding application process for 5 grants this year. This is the first resolution of 5. This grant, through the Climate Smart Communities funding stream, is seeking funds to support a new comprehensive plan to include sustainability elements as well as bicycling and walking plan, which will help get us closer to the Climate Smart Communities certification. With the work we've done through the MOGO task force, we're already well on our way. This money would help the town reimagine planning for the 21st century, to make sure we work with some of the latest planning tools and theories to emerge about the current and future state of suburbs so we can remain a wonderful, sustainable, biking and walking friendly place to live, work, and play. And probably our out-of-pocket, I think it is $50,000 would be our out-of-pocket because the amount that Pace would be putting forth would be about that, equal to that, and
Between
a
Pace
combination of that and
town.
our hours and our in-kind support for the grant, which is a great deal for a comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is very expensive, so I think it'll set us well on our way to doing that. Do I have any questions or discussion on this? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Climate Smart Communities Grant Program, the Town of Ossining Food Waste Collection Program. Whereas the Town of Ossining is a registered climate smart community, and whereas the Town of Ossining has been working towards earning bronze level certification from the Climate Smart Communities Program by implementing policies that support environmental sustainability. And whereas the town of Ossining would like to implement a food waste collection program for its residents in an effort to reduce the community's greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas Teatown Lake Reservation is also interested in spearheading an education campaign to encourage food waste collection and composting in Ossining, and whereas funding is available to complete climate change mitigation projects, including implementing a food waste collection program through the Climate Smart Communities grant funding through the New York State Consolidated Funding application. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes the submission of a grant application entitled Town of Ossining Food Waste Collection Program to the Climate Smart Communities program under the Consolidated Funding application to complete a mitigation project to implement a food waste collection program in the Town of Ossining, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining commits $50,000 in matching funds for this project in the form of cash and in-kind match with match support from T-Town as required by the Climate Smart Communities grant program to match the town's $50,000 grant request to fund materials, personnel expenses, and community education.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so our second TFA grant application under the same program is for Scraps Collection Program. As you may recall, Michelle Sterling and Ron Schulhoff from Scarsdale came to present to us at a work session about the program that they had launched in Scarsdale. I had the opportunity to visit both their collection site with Susie Ross of Green Ossining and Paul Fraioli, who was interim village manager of Ossining at the time, and also town engineer, as well as visited the town of Mamaroneck's collection site with Ossining Mayor Victoria Garrity. We had hoped through our refuse and recycling contract with Suburban we would have been able to include curbside food scraps collection, but that proved to be prohibitively expensive. So we now looked to the model that the town of Greenburgh created, which is to use a local program in their town park as a collection site and open it up to their villages as well. They did secure a grant through this program and partnered with Greenburgh Nature Center for education and outreach about the program, and so far it is going very well. We're applying for this grant with T-Town as our partner for education and outreach and have put in for staffing to monitor their collection site, which would be put at Cedar Lane Park. The good news is we hear that Cortland, town of Cortland has a proposal before their planning board for a composting facility in their town, which has the potential to greatly reduce the carting fees that would be involved in picking up the bins of food scraps. This is an opt-in program. Nobody's obligated to participate, but it has had great success in the other communities that have started them. And it's actually reduced, as I mentioned, the carting fees to the municipalities. So that's good news too. And it's good for our environment. Are there any questions or further discussion about this grant application? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Environmental Protection Fund, Cedar Lane Park improvements. Whereas the town of Ossining owns parkland at 235 Cedar Lane Park. And whereas Cedar Lane Park was formerly known as the Cress Estate when it was owned by the Cress family several decades ago, and whereas the buildings that once comprised the Cress Estate have fallen into disrepair and are not currently utilized as park amenities, including buildings known as the East and North Greenhouses and the Ice House, and whereas the town of Ossining is interested in rehabilitating these structures to become usable and accessible public spaces for community use, and whereas funding is available through the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation from the Environmental Protection Fund to support park improvement projects throughout New York State under the Consolidated Funding application. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes the submission of a grant application to the Environmental Protection Fund program under the Consolidated Funding application to rehabilitate the East and North Greenhouses and Ice House at Cedar Lane Park. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining commits matching funds in the form of in-kind and cash match as required by the Environmental Protection Fund grant program.
We have a motion. So, as part of our continuing efforts to upgrade our infrastructure in our town parks, we are applying through the Environmental Protection Fund for a grant to make improvements to the greenhouses and ice house at Cedar Lane Park. Part of the ice house is currently used to house our ceramic kilns, which support the Cedar Lane Art Center, but the other half of the building is unused. If cleaned up, it could support other recreation opportunities at the park, such as a place to store kayaks, fishing supplies, nets for volleyball, basketball supplies, and more, as well as possibly a concession stand. We also are proposing to fix up the greenhouses to be used as an added park amenity. Once completed, the greenhouses could be rented like pavilions for special events or even support pop-up ventures, as well as possibly a teaching kitchen or cooking programs to complement the community's Arden. We're hopeful this will tie in nicely to parks preservation as well as the goals of the Mid-Hudson Region's Economic Development Mission goals. Questions? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
So long.
Water Quality Improvement Project Program, salt shed replacement at Cedar Lane Park. Whereas the town of Ossining owns parkland at 235 Cedar Lane Park, and whereas the town's salt shed is located within Cedar Lane Park and is used frequently throughout the winter months to maintain roadways and access road throughout parks and other town-owned properties, and whereas the salt shed is currently damaged, causing salt to leak out of the enclosure, posing water quality concerns to the Indian Brook Croton River watershed, which is located in the area of Cedar Lane Park. And whereas funding is available through the Water Quality Improvement Project Program to fund salt storage projects under the consolidated funding application. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes the submission of a grant application to the Water Quality Improvement Project Program under the consolidated funding application to replace the salt storage structure at Cedar Lane Park. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining commits matching funds in the form of in-kind and cash match as required by the Water Quality Improvement Project Grant Program.
We have a motion. So we're hoping this grant will help us put on the front burner a project to upgrade our salt shed, which is currently in a town park. Until such time as we have another place to locate it, we want to make sure our salt shed is better controlled from both an environmental and security perspective. And we're hopeful that because of its current location, the state will look favorably on lending us a hand financially to do this. We have been working closely with our Superintendent of Highways, Michael G. O'Connor, on what the best replacement structure would be. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Salt shed, or are you talking about the salt shed?
Okay, Green Innovation Grant Program, green pavement improvements to town parks. Whereas the town of Ossining owns parkland at 235 Cedar Lane Park, Old Albany Post Road, Gerlach Park, and 43B Morningside Drive, Ryder Park. And whereas the town has included in its capital plan for 2019 to pave parking lots in Cedar Lane, Gerlach, and Ryder Parks, and whereas the town is interested in considering utilizing green paving methods for these projects, increasing the permeability of the parking lots and reducing the impact on the town's stormwater system. And whereas grant funding is available through the Green Innovation Grant Program for green pavement and bioretention projects under the consolidated funding application, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining authorizes the submission of a grant application to the Green Innovation Grant Program under the consolidated funding application to utilize green paving techniques at Cedar Lane, Gerlach, and Ryder Parks. And be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Ossining commits matching funds as required by the Green Innovation Grant Program.
I would just like to, do I have a motion?
Second.
Okay. So I'd just like to see if we can add a friendly amendment, and maybe council, you can help out. I'll just explain briefly. As part of our continuing efforts to improve our environmental footprint as we upgrade our facilities and parks, we are hoping that instead of naturally just paving as an automatic, we find other ways to improve our parking in our town parks. At this point, it is likely the only parks where we will be able to make improvements such as putting in biofilters or permeable pavers would be at Gerlach and Cedar Lane because the water table is too high at Ryder, as I understand it. This information comes after our consulting engineer, Dan Ciarcia, did some test borings to see what was already happening as far as percolation was concerned and at what level we hit water. We're working hard to make this grant workable. There is a possibility we may not be able to do so, but we would like to have this resolution in hand in the event we can pull it all together. However, it may not be that it's all at all of the parks. So if there's a way that we can just friendly amend the resolution so that it says as applicable or something like that, or as appropriate in the resolution, the resolved, to utilize green paving techniques at Cedar Lane, Gerlach, and or Ryder Parks as
To the extent feasible and practical.
to the extent feasible and practical. There's the permeable pavers that allow water to actually filter through, and then there's like a sub base of gravel that it goes through. So when it gets through the, instead of just running off and into the water table or into the stormwater, it actually gets filtered before it goes into the stormwater, and it is better for the environment to do that, which is why we actually require it from a lot of our developments now. It's part of our town code that that permeable pavement, I think, is required. So once again, we're trying to follow our own best
In other words,
policies and procedures.
Restraining the water, that's what you.
Right, exactly. We're straining the water. Yeah, filtering the water before it gets in and back into the
Okay.
system. So if we can, wherever we can, we're going to try to do that wherever possible. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Letter of support for CFA application, land acquisition, Westchester Land Trust. Whereas the town board of the town of Ossining has been approached by the Westchester Land Trust for their support in a consolidated funding application for the acquisition of a vacant parcel contained entirely within the town of Cortland and abutting the town of Ossining. And whereas the parcel in question is within the Indian Brook watershed, which supplies Ossining residents with a safe and reliable water source, and the preservation of this property will help to ensure continued availability of this community resource. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining does hereby authorize the supervisor to sign a letter of support for submission from the town of Ossining to be submitted along with the CFA application by the Westchester Land Trust.
We have a motion. As we discussed at our work session last week, we are excited that Westchester Land Trust is working with the support of the town of Cortland on this land acquisition, which, if successful, would protect property in the Indian Brook Croton Gorge watershed. Happy to provide a letter of support. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, next, personnel resignation, town court. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts with regret the resignation of part-time intermediate clerk Ernestia Valentine, effective August 2nd, 2018.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we're so sorry to have to accept the resignation of one of our court personnel, Ernestia Cindy Valentine, who most recently served as intermediate clerk and worked at the window. So many people adore Cindy. She's moving away, and the justices, as well as the court staff, already are feeling the big hole that will be left by her absence. We wish Cindy well in her future endeavors and thank her for her 10 years of wonderful service. Good luck, Cindy.
Many years, and I never knew.
Her name. Yeah, Ernestia. Okay. Any other comments? All those in favor with regret?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Sorry, aye.
Okay. Aye. Thought you-
Sale of surplus equipment, Cedar Lane Art Center. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining authorizes the following item to be declared surplus. Donated Randall motorized kick wheel at Cedar Lane Art Center.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So our kick wheel in the ceramic studio at Cedar Lane Art Center has not been seeing much action. We're surplusing it and hope to put the money back into additional needed shelving. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Did I get a motion? Okay, just checking.
Okay. Fee schedule change, bounce check, tax receiver. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby amends the town of Ossining fee schedule as follows. Bounce check fee per item return from $35 to $20.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
So after changing this fee from $20 to $35 to match the Village of Ostin's, we have since discovered that we have a local law designating that it cannot exceed $20. Back.
It's actually state law that dictates it
Oh,
can't
it's
exceed
state law.
$20.
Okay, state law. There we have it. Okay. So our apologies for making that mistake to the state. Luckily, they haven't come down to slap our wrists too hard yet, but we have changed it back. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Okay. Correspondence to be received and filed. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the following meeting minutes. June 20th, 2018, planning board meeting minutes.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay. Monthly reports. Resolved that the town board of the town of Ossining hereby accepts the following reports. Dale Cemetery, May and June 2018. Town Building Department, June 2018.
Do I have a motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Visitor recognition? I'm sorry, your son is not here for that. But we will welcome him back with open arms the next time he does come.
I just, Maddie, did Maddie? Yeah. You did a great job. I have
He
to tell
really
you.
did. That is true. Okay. So we are going, I'm asking for a motion to adjourn into executive session for contracts and personnel, unless, no, we do have Lieutenant Damiano here. Before we leave and adjourn, do you have anything that you wanted to tell us about? I'll give you an opportunity. Oh, wait, you're going to have to come and use somebody's microphone. Okay, here we go. Oh, yeah. The Rotary. I forgot something. Okay, one more time. Here, you want to borrow this one? Come on around. Sorry.
This Friday night, the Rotary Club is acknowledging our Ossining Auxiliary Police Force with a nice dinner at General Electric. And I hope
Some of us will
Supervisor
be,
Levenberg will be there.
I will.
I-
Councilwoman Feldman will be there.
Councilwoman. So hopefully after that, we'll post something on our website acknowledging them in existence since 1942.
Oh, my goodness. And you're going to have the honor, you're going to do the honors of helping us recognize the auxiliary?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Lieutenant Damiano, for coming out tonight. And, Lieutenant Damiano has also been helping us out with our Croton River task force. And we have another meeting this Wednesday because there's been a lot of activity at the Croton River because of the wonderful weather. So we're going to continue to work on making sure that it's safe there for everybody and enjoyable. And very grateful for your help on that, as well as all of the stuff that's going on down at the waterfront. Very appreciative. Okay, so with that, I will take a motion to adjourn into executive session for contracts and personnel. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We will see everybody, not next week, but the following week, August 7th, for a work session and special meeting, and we will be at 16 Croton Avenue. Is that true? 16 Croton Avenue. Have a great night, everybody. Great week, couple weeks.